All new tonight, we are taking you inside a secret society that's been part of a campus life at a Christian university here in Texas. It's called the Nose Brotherhood. It's known for their members wearing Groucho Marx glasses. And our media partners at Texas Monthly, they got an inside look at how the group works and why it is clashing with administrators on campus. We've got J.K. Nickel, who spent some time intimately with that group, joining us for tonight's discussion. J.K., thank you so much for being with us. The first thing I want to ask you. Yeah, of course. So the first thing I want to ask you is, when did the Nose Brotherhood start, and what is their purpose? Why do they exist?
So they began roughly a century ago. And at first it wasn't a secret society. It was more like it's just sort of an oddball social club. They created these irreverent traditions that played off of and sort of gently mocked the kinds of events more traditional Greek organizations were known for. And then they started contributing humor pieces to the yearbook and the campus newspaper. In the mid-50s, they started their own satirical newspaper called The Rope. And in the following decade, in the 60s, sort of in the middle of Vietnam and the civil rights movement, they turned more towards social satire and began criticizing the Baylor administration, skewering the college's fundamentalist tendencies, both in The Rope and through some pretty wild stunts. And this resulted in them getting kicked off campus a number of times. And that's why they ultimately went underground and became a secret society, because they were threatened with expulsion for participating in the group. And that's when they started dressing up when they went in public, and they developed these secret names and had sort of secretive bylines in their satirical newspaper, and it kind of grew and expanded from there.
Hearing about this is always so interesting, because I feel like each campus all across the country has their lore of the secret underground groups, right? You brought up their relationship with the administration. They've had an interesting relationship, to say the least, with Baylor. What's the agreement between the two now, and how does that come into play for big events on campus like homecoming?
Totally. So the relationship has long been fraught. One of the brothers' more infamous stunts was in 2016. This is in the middle of the Baylor football team's sexual assault scandal. And for the brothers' homecoming parade, they simply attached a rug to a pickup. And the brothers all carried brooms and pretended to sweep things underneath it, which was a pretty scathing critique of how the school handled the sexual assault controversy. That's not created all sorts of uproar. There are a number of examples like that going back decades. The relationship changed a bit more recently when Ken Starr took over as president in 2010. He was a political animal. He was politically savvy enough to keep his enemies close. So he buddied up to them a little and forged an uneasy alliance. And his agreement with them was basically, look, you can take your shots at me all you want, but if you're going to do something controversial, just give us a heads up in advance. The problem, of course, is that you can only muzzle a bunch of irreverent 20-year-olds so much before that kind of agreement breaks down, which, as you said, it did recently.
Yeah, this is interesting. We're digging a little deeper here. I'm getting through the layers. The university, what have they said about the secret society and that ban recently? Where do they stand on it?
So the administration would not talk to me for the piece. So the brothers were recently kicked off campus again, this time for skewing the administration's stance on the conflict in Gaza, or I guess the administration's lack of a stance, really. So the last time I talked to the brothers a week or so ago, they were on the verge of reaching an agreement that would allow the brothers back on campus. I don't know the details of that agreement, but the brothers seemed pretty pleased. So this would be the end of like a 10 month running conflict. That I think is coming to an end. Okay,
I'm very intrigued. And as I said at the beginning, you spent some time intimately with the secret society. You kind of became a part of it. What do you think is the future for the Nose Brotherhood, especially if they are reestablished to be on campus again?
Totally. Well, I should say I'm kind of an honorary member. I'm not a full member. They did this thing when I was with them. They blindfolded me and took me out to Lake Waco for an initiation ceremony so that I could embed with them for a few days and participate in a number of absurd homecoming rituals. But I think the future of the Brotherhood is bright. After the story came out, I heard from them. They had one of the largest pledge classes ever. And satire has always been an important tool in holding powerful people to account. I think that's more true than ever. And so I think these folks will continue to play a vital role in the life of Baylor.